right, we're back at it for another shot at Drummer Nation Live with my esteemed co-host, the lovely and talented Adam Nussbaum. How are you, brother?
Especially my hair, I know.
Yeah. So I missed you last week. You were in Europe or something, right? What were you doing?
I was involved at a workshop. Actually, I was doing a residency at a conservatory in Groningen, Netherlands. They have a program there where they bring people in from New York once. They have different guests every week. So I was there last week, and they bring different people in. Billy Hart's been in there, Mike Clark, Don Braden, J.D. Walter, a whole bunch of different instrumentalists come in and work with the students.
That's great. Don't you wish there was more of that here in the States?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this is a fascinating place because they have students there from all over the world: Bulgaria, Romania, Tibet, China, Korea,
Hmm.
Montana, you name it, everywhere.
So did you have a good time? Were the kids great?
Yeah, the kids are they're learning how to play in this environment.
Right. I don't mean great that they're great players yet. I mean it's great, great kids, right?
Well, some of them do have a very good sense of gratitude. Some of them, of course, have a little attitude, but when
Hmm.
people have been stroking them a long time, they start to get their head a little bit swelled.
Reality catches up eventually.
Yeah, eventually this is something that happens, and they just need a more experience
Hmm.
on the bandstand and
And that's a
something
hard. Go ahead.
practiced by yourself. That's a common problem.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'm sure they're glad to have you there. Um,
I
now we're
try to give them edutainment.
there. You go. You're
I
a
try
perfect
to
guy to
give
do
them the
that.
truth. I try to give them the truth, and I try to do it in a entertaining manner.
You keep them laughing, and then you hit them with a wham bam like a shot of
That's it.
whiskey.
That's it. You have to sometimes bring them outside, give them a little tune up.
I'm sure they love you for it. Well, we're starting a new series today. You and I talked about, and it's about the departed friend of the whole industry. We lost Dom Famularo recently, but a few years back we lost Roy Burns. And Roy was a dear friend of mine. Everybody in the industry loved him. And of course, he had Aquarian drums. I'll get to why we're talking about him, but just a little bio. He came up in, must have been the 50s, I guess. Worked with Benny Goodman, Woody Herman, Lionel Hampton. But he's also credited with inventing the drum clinic and popularizing that medium, and founder of Aquarian Drumheads in 1980. And I love his heads. I use them right here. Um, and the thing that was cool about Roy was he ran this series in Modern Drummer that ran for 12 years called Concepts. And this book is published by Modern Drummer, but Modern Drummer's in a new state now. And I think you can still get access to all these articles if you subscribe to Modern Drummer because it's all online. So we want to promote that idea. Now, what we want to do is, first of all, as you know, Adam, the Concepts articles were not about how to play the drums. It didn't have any notation, any exercises, permutations. It was about how to be a functioning musician, person, human being on this planet and making a living in the music industry.
Amen. Amen. Realities that have to be addressed.
Hmm. And they were short little one pagers in the book, and we can't show you all of these because it's intellectual property. But what we're going to do is review them. We're calling the series uh, Roy Redux because here's a little title for it: Roy Burns Redux. Because Redux means to bring back, to have another look at. Now we're going to remember that he wrote this in the '80s, so some of this stuff is 20 years old or 40 years old, pardon me, or more, and we're going to look at them over a series of weeks. We're not going to publish them. We're going to examine them an article at a time and give our reflections on it. Right, Adam?
Amen. I mean, the points that he brings up are timeless.
Exactly. That's
And
why we're looking at it.
what era we're in. just has to do with the realities of being a functioning musician, and more than that, even just functioning as a decent human being.
Exactly. Well, to that end, the first one is called Showing Up, the Key to Success. And we'll look at some of his major points and talk about him, give our reflections on it. The first thing when he talks about showing up is obviously getting there on time. We can't overstate the importance of that, right?
Well, I've always felt that it's necessary to be there, be ready, and this shows the band leader and your fellow bandmates your sense of respect for one another, first of all, as human beings. And I think it's horrendous if you show up late because, first of all, you're a drummer and your whole life is based upon time.
I never
So
thought of it that way.
you better be there on time.
Hmm.
And I've always prided myself, and that this is something that you need to do just out of responsibility to your fellow man. Unfortunately, a lot of times people make excuses and say, "Oh, he's a musician" or this, and it gives a bad rep and a bad, um, perception of musicians.
Right.
And we have to be conscientious. I mean, to me, this all has to do with a basic premise of something I learned when I was a little boy from my parents, the golden rule: do unto others as you would like to be done unto you. Show up, be on time. If they say downbeat at 10, that means you're ready for the count off. You don't show up at 10.
Well, Ralph Peterson, rest in peace, always said, he told his students, if you're not ready to play 30 minutes before the gig, you're late.
That's common. I'll drop a personal anecdote for me. I had many years where I was fortunate to play with the incredible James Moody. And when Moody used to say, "We leave at 9," that meant the vehicle was in the wind at 9.
Hmm.
You didn't show up at 9. So
Right.
if you were on time, you were late. And I respected that. And everybody in the band just got with the program, and it just makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I have a couple of anecdotes, too. I lived in LA for 10 years, and you know what that traffic's like. In the 10 years, I was late to 2 gigs, and in each case, I was the first guy there. So it got a little crazy. But I did have a friend who played on the Rams. And the Rams, the LA Rams at the time, had a policy where if you were late to practice, it was $500. And as much as those guys made, they still, they didn't want to, they were on time. Believe me, they were on time. In our case,
I,
it just means they're not going to call you again.
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, you have to just be taking care of business as a human being. Show
Hmm.
respect for one another, and then it's a reflection on you. People have to know that they can depend on you.
Exactly.
If you play great and you show up late, sorry, you'll have to wait.
There you go. Another A bomb. The other thing he talks about is your state of mind when you get there, man. As much as we hear about drugs and alcohol in the entertainment industry, everybody I know shows up to a gig stone cold sober, good attitude, straight, ready to play. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I've been in situations where people are not sober, but they do the job and they really take care of business. And I think I remember hearing once from Eddie Harris had 2 rules for people that he hired in the band. It was, first of all, wow, what's balloons are coming by? What happened?
I don't know.
Wow, that was far out. Balloons just
I saw
showed
that.
up. Wow. From what I heard with Eddie Harris, it was like, first of all, be on time and be able to play.
Right,
If you can't do both, you're in trouble. I don't
right.
care what you do on your time, but
There
when
you
I'm
go.
paying you, you better be able to take care of business.
Exactly. There's a joke. I think it was Zoot Sims. I don't want to credit somebody erroneously, but Somebody said, how do you play drunk? He said, well, I practice drunk.
I've seen several musicians in this world where it's just uncanny how great they could play, and then as soon as they got off the bandstand, it's like, how could they do it?
Right.
But
Right.
you never know, man. I mean, the bottom line is you have to be able to do your job, perform to the best of what the gig requires. And most of us are going to work because we fulfill the obligation of having gained the trust of the other people in the band. And I think that's a very important thing for people to understand. You must gain the trust of the other musicians that you're working with.
There are drummers who sit down at the kit and before they played a note, everybody's happy. The guy's got a great attitude. He's or her, and just bringing that sense of joy and relax, and everybody's going to have fun. It's going to be great music. People have a way that they can bring that to the bandstand without saying a word.
It's the energy and the vibe that you project out to people.
Exactly.
You can't be there like a turtle in the shell, especially as a drummer, because we create the entire sonic environment for the rest of the group.
Right.
And we all know that old line, what's the quickest way to change the sound of a band? Change the drummer.
Exactly. Let me get a spot in here because I also have to plug in
Sure.
a camera. I didn't do so. So let me get a couple of these short. Stay with us, folks. It's just a few seconds.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Bobby A, and today I wanted to tell you about how much I really love the Hudson Music digital app. Okay, now, check it out. It's an app that you can get for your device, and you can purchase books from the Hudson Music digital store and have them stored right on your device. The great thing about it is you always have it with you, and any content that might be video related or music related is right there at your fingertips. It's a wonderful resource.
Hey, everybody out there in cyber world, this is Adam Nussbaum.
Hi, Dave DeCenzo here.
Hi, Bermuda Schwartz here.
Hey everyone, Stanton Moore here.
Hey guys, Johnson Pesta here.
Hey everybody, this is John J.R. Robinson.
Hi, Todd Zuckerman here for the Drum Center of Portsmouth. They're knowledgeable, they'll be able to help you and guide you and make the right choices for you and the music that you play.
From Wingnut to Wuhan, these chaps know what they're talking about. Highly recommended. But what do I know? I'm a drummer.
A sense of humor is also a great thing.
We gotta love that. It's important, man. You know, we gotta give a good vibe for everybody.
It's part of that. You sit at the kit and everybody's comfortable.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're sitting on the throne, okay? That doesn't mean we want to be a tyrannical king or queen, as it may be. I want it to be a nice democracy with the band.
Mm-hmm. Well stated. Let's talk about gear. You know, have you ever gone to sub for somebody and the gear just sucks? You know, it's like heads that should have been changed 5 years ago and stands are all janky and don't work. And I mean, I don't get that, you know? I take a real set of drums with real cymbals and good gear everywhere I go, and you can fit it all on one cart and get in, and there's no reason to take crap to a gig. I really don't like that.
Well, you're at least talking about bringing gear. You know,
Right.
So often with my travels, I'm dealing with drums du jour.
Right.
So I, of course, still, I travel with cymbals and sticks and brushes. And in my stick bag, I have a variety of washers, different drum keys. I've got extra snare cord. I've got felts. I've got those little things that, you know, you might need. And I've also started to bring sandpaper.
Oh, to rough up a head?
Yeah, I got that from the wonderful Dutch drummer John Engels. He's kind of like the Papa Joe of the Netherlands. He's 88, wonderful drummer, great guy, still playing his ass off. And he's got a voice like this. You know, Adam, you get to the drums sometimes, they sound terrible. There's no sound on the brushes with the snare drum. So I always have sandpaper. And, you know, you rough it right up and you're okay.
You're okay. Yeah, you can't use a clear head with brushes. I mean, you can, but it isn't. It isn't right.
It wouldn't sound so good.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I always suggest people bring gear. What's that little tiny bass amp that guys bring? You know, it's a little GK, right?
Well, they
Gallion
had,
Kruger. It's like this big. And I
Yeah.
always say, look, man, I brought a whole set of drums. Can you bring an amp?
well, they've got some littler ones now that have been coming out. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Acoustic Image is one of them. GK, Mark Bass has got some little ones. They were all kind of jumping on this because people don't want to, you know, be carrying heavy stuff. I mean,
I
for
hear you.
me, when I'm carrying gear, I'm trying to use the lightest possible hardware that works for me.
Me too.
I try to have a decent seat because you got to feel grounded where you're sitting.
Hmm.
And then I also think that the lighter cymbal stands allow the cymbals to sound better
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
as far as mass and everything.
You don't need all that mess underneath it.
You know, and who wants to schlep? I mean, I've never knocked a cymbal over. Maybe the wind has blown the cymbal over. There's
When
the
I-
king of the house. He's on the wrong side of the door. Excuse me for one moment.
Sure,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I have a little anecdote I'll throw in. When I was a kid, in high school, I auditioned to be in the band at Six Flags Over Georgia. And they said, well, play a drum solo. So I was nervous, and I played, and I hit a cymbal stand, and it fell over. The whole cymbal just fell over in the middle of this solo, and I embarrassedly kept playing. Somebody came up and put it back in front of me, but, you know, I was like 16, scared to death. Anyway, let me find where I had him. Here he is. He's back. How's Cosmo?
He's fine. He likes being out on the front porch, you know, surveying the world, protecting his domain.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping the house safe from riffraff.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
Well, you wanted to mention something. You had another an album or something there.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things that Roy is speaking about there, this is an incredible document.
I zoomed in on you. Yeah,
Right.
that's fantastic.
And this was done in 1948. Baby Dodds, who, for those of you that don't know, was one of the original jazz drummers on the scene. And he did some early recordings with Louis Armstrong. And he's really one of the foundational prime exponents of jazz drums. And he does various demonstrations on this. But what he also does is he speaks and he talks about certain things. And the things that he says in here are timeless. Just like these points we're trying to talk about, showing up on time, being prepared, taking care of business. He talks about, well, the drummer has to play for the benefit of the band. That's why you work.
That's why we're there, right?
That's why we're there. And it's incredible. This was a 10-inch 33 LP. And I'm sure that if you hunt out, and you can find it on YouTube where you can listen to things about it. But it's wonderful to hear him. He's got incredible time in the examples that he plays. This is pre-hi-hat. And
Early New Orleans drummer.
yeah, this is, I would say, this is like invaluable listening for any drummer to be aware of what this gentleman did. And, you know, these things are just timeless that are required if you want to be functioning out there in the world and working. And I just love listening to him speak, and just how he says you have to play differently for everybody in the band. Every instrument sounds different. You have to help accompany them in a manner that's going to facilitate them to do what they're trying to do. As I always say, it's not about me, it's about we when we're on a bandstand. And
Exactly.
those acronyms that people always make up, time, this I must earn, team, together, everyone achieves more. And 90% of our job is generally accompanying people. And something that gets me a little confused at times is I see drummers spending 90% of their time working on the drum solo when that's only 10% of what you do. How about just spending time getting your time together, getting your ride cymbal together, getting your groove together, making it feel good? I mean, this is why you're going to work. And another one I want to drop on you is somebody said to me, well, how do you get a gig? And I'd heard from somebody, it was like, how do you get a gig? Have a gig and do a good job. Actions speak louder than words.
That's right. Now, you'll hear people talk about somebody had a lucky break. Lucky breaks happen. It was lucky that Jocko heard Peter Erskine on Maynard's band and wanted him to play on Weather Report. Great. Lucky day. But Peter earned that spot, and he stayed there for a long time. And you don't build a career on luck. You can have a lucky day. You can have, boy, so and so was at the gig and he hired me, and man, what about worked for him for 20 years? Well, that was a lucky break, but you didn't work for him for 20 years for luck.
Peter Erskine was working at this craft from the time he was a young boy.
That's right.
I mean, he was totally prepared. I mean, Peter is one of the most prepared musicians I know. I mean, who else played with Maynard and then did records for ECM? I mean, come on, the scope of his musicality is incredible. That's why he's been out there.
And we can say that about a lot of great drummers, man. They were prepared, they did their work, got a nice break, and handled it, and that led to more. Like you said, the best way to get a gig is to start with one and kill it.
Yeah, and let the music tell you what to play. When I say the music, let the situation tell you how to approach it.
Of course. Of course.
Mandatory.
Well, this is the book we're quoting. If you can find it, they're going for more than $100. They're out of print. But my friends tell me that the subscription to Modern Drummer will have these articles in them. So we want to give a plug to Roy posthumously, our dear friend. And I did do an interview with him, by the way. I want to plug that. This is in Classic Drummer magazine. We did a series on pioneers of percussion. And we did Roy and Johnny Craviotto and Don Lombardi and Remo Belli and a whole bunch of people. But he was a dear friend of mine. I don't know how well you knew him.
Well, I just remember as a kid always seeing him in the catalogs.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about this gentleman was that he became very successful within the business, coming from being a very functional, high-level musician.
Exactly. And when you say high level, you got to remember he was on Benny Goodman's band. You know who the great drummer from Benny's band was? Gene Krupa.
Yeah.
You got to fill those shoes, man. And he did. He did admirably.
Deal with what that gig was about. Mm-hmm. Like any gig, you got to know how to deal with what's going on, not only on a musical level, but a personal level. Mm-hmm. You have to go in and deal with people as human beings and do what your job is and do it to the best of your ability.
Well, Roy had that in spades. He was a mentor to me. He would call me all the time and vice versa, and he had great stories and great jokes, and kept up with the scuttlebutt of the whole industry. So he was a dear friend, dear friend. Well, this is the cover I think we're going to use on this series, Roy Burns Redux, and we're going to do a bunch of them in support of our departed friend Roy Burns and the fact that this stuff is still timely, still spot on. 35, 40 years later. I don't know if I ever said anything that was still going to be timely 40 years later. But
This stuff will be good 100 years, 200 years. This is eternally viable information.
Indeed. All right,
Yeah.
I think we killed it. You got anything else?
I'm just happy to be home.
You home for the rest of the month, basically, for the holidays?
Yeah. I got some projects coming up this month. I got some recording, few gigs coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited because I'm going to get to play with Will Lee for the first time.
Oh, wow. To people who don't know, Will Lee is the bass player you would know from the David Letterman show. And he's a giant of a bass player and a session ace and a vocalist as well. And his dad was wasn't he the dean of music or something at the University of Miami?
Yeah, Will comes from some serious stock there, and he's got the goods. And we've known each other over 40 years, but we've just never had the opportunity to play. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
That should be fun. And I'm just hoping for some peace and harmony in this world.
Yeah. We're going to do a show about that we talked about before, but what we're going to tie it into is no matter where you're from and what your ethnic heritage is, musicians get together on the stage and all that goes away.
Amen, baby. You know, it's a common language, and it's a true healing force, which is necessary.
Yep. And I've been the only, New Orleans white boy on the band more times than I can count, and never had the slightest instance of any kind of crazy shit like that.
Listen, actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get up and deliver, if you got the thing, if you can put that spittle-a-ding with the ickety boom and get everybody happy.
Love that.
That's at the end of the day, it's all, can you come up with the goods? It's not about talking the talk. It's about walking the walk and getting it going and having everything be cool, because that's what matters. And, finding, like we said, kumbaya with everybody on the bandstand, being able to take care of business. It's very important. Very important. It cuts through all the BS.
Well, Roy had that together. He knew all about it. So we're going to leave it there. This is going to be a series, Roy Burns Redux. So we look for you to check us out again on these, along with the other kind of things we've been doing. We've got a lot of ideas cooking, percolating for some shows. So my esteemed, talented, good-looking co-host, Adam Nussbaum, thank you again, sir.
I'm just working on my hair did.
You do have the hair to succeed. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Drummer Nation. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.